Hi, my name is Rivera-Cash. I'm in the Community Health and Science Practice concentration, and this is the Interprofessional assignment for the Global Environmental Health course. The title of my presentation is New Directions, Innovative Approach to Addressing Informal ULAB Recycling in Agbogbloshie. Here is a table of contents. We'll first discuss Agbogbloshie, Accra City, Ghana, the practice of informal ULAB recycling, then informal ULAB recycling in Agbogbloshie, then explore the environmental effects of this practice, then explore the health effects of ULAB recycling, and then we'll review the three approaches. Approach number 1, health education and photo voice. Approach number 2, family advocates. Approach number 3, qualitative research report. And lastly, the assessment of the various approaches and lessons learned. So let's review the setting. The Agbogbloshie Food Market is located in Accra, the capital of Ghana, and the Ottawa River in the city of Accra surrounds two sides of the Agbogbloshie Food Market. The location is 15 acres in size, flat and heavily industrialized. The site is a large scrapyard of electronic waste where residential and industrial equipment such as heavy machinery, car parts, refrigerators are manually disassembled for economic value. According to the United Nations Environment Program, 85% of the e-waste dumped in Ghana and other parts of West Africa is produced in Ghana and West Africa. The informal recycling of used lead-acid batteries is one of the many hazardous activities that is done in Agbogbloshie. The informal recycling of used lead-acid batteries is done in many low and middle-income countries and typically uncontrolled and unregulated. The informal ULAB recycling process includes manually dismantling used batteries with axe, typically without protective gear, removing the top of the battery and pouring acid into the surrounding dirt, and then removing and remelting plates in an open furnace. At Agbogbloshie, informal ULAB recycling and in general dismantling and recycling of electronic waste is done mainly by boys and young men. Majority of workers do not have formal education, as study on the workers indicates 65 respondents have never been to school. It is noted the low-level education among e-waste workers may contribute to their unconcerned attitudes as they pollute the environment. Nevertheless, ULAB recycling is a significant economic opportunity in the area and a livelihood for many. So, to explore the environmental effects of this practice, ULAB recycling process releases lead in the land, which tends to accumulate in the upper 1 to 2 inches of soil. ULAB recycling process contaminates nearby bodies of water with lead. This is particularly harmful to residential communities that uses these sources for drinking water. The process releases lead dust into the surrounding environment, which is dangerous to children in nearby residential communities with pregnant mothers. As a result, unsound informal recycling of used lead-acid batteries has been identified as the leading source of lead exposure. And so, to touch on the health effects of ULAB recycling, lead is a potent neurological and cardiovascular toxicant that is responsible for nearly 1.5% of annual global deaths. Impoverished children are at high risk for lead poisoning as they tend to live in regions with high exposure, such as places where ULAB recycling occurs. Lead can cause a number of adverse health effects, such as disruption of biosynthesis of hemoglobin and anemia, kidney damage, miscarriages, increase in blood pressure, disruption of nervous system, brain damage, and decline in men's fertility. Three professionals outside the public health field were asked their thoughts on how to address this public health environmental issue. Arceli is a digital archive specialist at Hudson Archival. There she works to preserve history by digitizing photo collections. As someone working with photos, she understands the power of photography to honestly reflect people's lived experiences. In an effort to address this public health concern, she proposed an approach that included using photos to educate youth on the harmful effects of lead to the environment and human health, and have youth take photos of their lives as a form of social activism and to inspire political action. Professional number 2, Cheyenne is a family advocate at Poughkeepsie City School District and helps families connect with the city school district and to access educational and community resources. She believes family advocates can be a great tool to help bring about awareness of community issues and advocate communities to enact change. To address this public health concern, she proposes To have family advocates from the community educate workers and families on the harmful environmental and health effects of UAB recycling, connect those suffering with lead poisoning to health services, and to build a coalition of families that can advocate for expanded social and economic opportunities in the area so people don't have to resort to informal UAB recycling. Our last profession number 3, is Edgar. He's a research analyst at the Research Alliance for New York City Schools. As a qualitative research analyst, Edgar uses qualitative research methods to investigate education related issues and works with the Research Alliance to use qualitative research to inform policy. He believes qualitative data helps contextualize issues in the words of those impacted. He proposed having a researcher interview those practicing informal ULAB recycling to get a sense of the issue and prepare the data in a report that can inspire new policies and regulations. And here to touch on the assessment of the 3 approaches and the lessons learned. And so there's a potential single approach. So all 3 interventions can be incorporated together. And so into one multi-level intervention that incorporates health education on the harmful effects of ULAB recycling, builds community action to address this issue via family advocates, and produces research to inform policy via qualitative interviews and photos from youth. So the assessment. Photos can be a compelling medium to educate youth, and photos can inspire change. Family advocates from the community can engender community action, and a qualitative research report in conjunction with community action can push local governments to control and regulate informal UAB recycling. For each strategy to be successful, funding and implementation oversight of each component will be necessary. And in regards to lessons learned, every professional used their background to inform their intervention strategy. There was a prevalent theme of community social activism in each strategy. And lastly, interprofessional approaches are necessary to address public health challenges. Public health is an interdisciplinary field, therefore, public health issues require interdisciplinary approaches. And that is the last of my presentation. Here are my references. Thank you.